Hello, listener person. Welcome to the Failing Writers Nonsense. We're here to...
Okay.
What?
What was that?
What's wrong?
You just said the Failing Writers Nonsense.
Did I?
Yeah.
Oh, God. I didn't mean to. Sorry. It just came out.
Hey, John, do you know how badly my writing life is going? Shall I tell you?
Yes, please.
So I had a dream the other night. This is genuine.
Oh, yeah.
I had a dream. And I think it was us. You know how dreams get a bit weird and wavy and not quite sure what. I think it was us. We were on a writing retreat.
Oh, yeah.
And it was like round a campfire.
Oh, that sounds nice.
And there was like a really famous writer there. I don't know who it was, but it was just like a generic amalgam of all famous, like, best-selling novelists. It was this woman. And I kind of went up to her, like, oh, nice to meet, come here. And she just went, and looked at her watch and just went, I'm going now. It takes me 2.5 hours to get home, so I need to go now. And I was thinking in my dream, surely you've been booked for like the whole day,
not just for the campfire.
Yeah. And so that was, and I'm thinking now I've said it out loud. Maybe that's my brain telling me this is just one big dreamy metaphor, isn't it?
What, you don't belong in that world.
I don't know. I'm not sure. I'm not sure now. I want to delve into it, but It was one of those dreams. It was I woke up with it completely in my head. I could see it all. It was all there. And there's lots more to it, I'm sure. But just remember this woman, this best-selling writer, was like wearing this red dress.
Not wanting to talk to you.
Completely dismissed. She was just could have stood there and gone, I'm literally here for the quick paycheck. I'm going as soon as I can, if not slightly sooner.
So you didn't get a lot from her?
Well, she lived 2.5 miles away, John, so she had to get back. It was obviously mildly inconvenient for her.
Yeah, don't delve into that too much, Tom.
So there you go. It's not a brilliant story, John, but it's something to start the podcast off with. It's true, if that counts for anything.
Yeah. I don't think I've had a single writing dream, certainly not one that I can remember. And again, that probably tells you something as well.
That's maybe something else, yeah.
Hey, do you know what we need to share with our lovely, beautiful listeners, don't you, Tom?
But more than that amazing story I just told?
Yeah. Above and beyond that.
I don't know.
The fact that we will be attending an open mic poetry night.
Yeah. Yay.
You see, I'm saying this out loud so that we can't back out of it.
So now it's happening.
Yeah. So, if anyone is anywhere near Durham...
What are you doing? Don't tell people. If people actually turn up and see us, what are you doing?
We want people to come and join us and meet. We want to meet the people. So if you fancy joining us for the night...
Well, to meet them in a situation where they're not listening to my poetry that I haven't written yet.
It's at the Waddington Street Centre, Durham, on Thursday, June the 5th.
Give them more detail.
At 7 p.m. So get there nice and early. And you could write some poetry too. You try it out on the crowd.
I'd feel more comfortable if they did that.
Yeah. I mean, don't just come and sit there and laugh at us. I didn't mean that.
Yeah, don't turn up to the nudist colony wearing your towel.
No, exactly. No, you're doing it too.
Yeah. Completely.
Yeah, don't bother turning up if you haven't got any poetry.
So when's that? Say it again, John, so people can write it down furiously because everyone will want to turn up.
That is Thursday, June the 5th at 7 p.m. and it's at the Waddington Street Centre, Durham.
That's right in the middle of Durham, is it? Pretty much?
I think so, yeah.
Yeah.
So, that would be quite fun, wouldn't it, Tom? Are you looking forward to that? Have you started writing any poetry for it?
No, I haven't. I think I am. I think I'm looking forward to it.
Yeah, I think I am too.
I don't know. I don't know what sort of stuff to write.
I think once I've written a poem that I'm happy with, I'll be more excited about it.
Do you think is it going to be an artsy-fartsy, touchy-feely poetry night?
I don't know.
Are they going to balk at some of my base wit and crude metaphors?
No, I think they probably like it.
Or is it like a bit of a crowd, few drinks, good laugh?
No, I feel like we'll be like the light entertainment around the solid, painful poetry.
But then you've got to write for yourself. This is the same thing as all the writing. You've got to write for yourself. You can't try and just please the crowd. So I need to find that something inside me. Maybe I should write a poem about a woman in a red dress that leaves early from a writer's retreat. I don't know. That's all I've got at the minute.
Point.
Yeah.
Speaking of poetry as well, Tom, you're probably not going to like this either.
Why?
But
are you going to read me some of yours?
No.
Okay.
Have you ever heard of a Clerihew?
No.
The Clerihew is a poetic form.
Okay.
And it's quite fun. And the reason I bring it up is because we wrote some... Do you remember I told you about the writing group in the library that I went to quite a while ago? We had a go at writing some Clerihews, and they are really good fun.
What is a Clerihew then?
So they were invented by a chap called Edmund Clerihews Bentley,
Right.
who was like a crime writer and humorist back in the sort of 20s and 30s. But he came up with this form. It's a 4-line biographical poetic form.
How does that work then?
So the properties are, the first line should just be a person's name, obviously like ideally someone famous,
Right.
someone we've heard of.
Yeah.
The rhyme scheme is AABB, but so part of the fun in a way is trying to rhyme difficult names.
Oh, okay.
Because you say the name of the first line and then you rhyme it with something that's relevant to
So is this just like the 90s student smash hit John Ketley is a Weatherman?
Yeah, but didn't they rhyme weatherman with weatherman in that?
No, that was the joke in it, that John Ketley is a weatherman. So they rhymed lots of other celebrities' names.
And so is Michael Fish.
And then said, and John Ketley is a weatherman, rather than rhyming something with Ketley.
Right. But yeah, maybe a bit like that. Do you want? One of his most famous was Sir Christopher Wren said, "I'm going to dine with some men. If anyone calls, say I'm designing St. Paul's."
Okay, so it's like a shit limerick.
Yeah. A little bit, yeah, but biographical.
Right. Because can I?
I mean that's not a great one. It's a famous one. It's not great.
Yeah.
But they're supposed to be whimsical.
I don't want to go back to. I don't want to keep labouring on the John Ketley as a Weatherman song point. But yeah, that had Ayrton Senna's got the voice of a tenor. Peter Snow sings very low, and things like that, innit?
Nice.
But so it's like a condensed version, isn't it, to get it all in?
It is, yeah, exactly.
Simon Parkin's always larking, and Eric Lane is the same. And Jonathan Ross collects moss. John Ketley is a weatherman.
Nice. God, you remember the lyrics properly.
Yeah. Oh, it's a great song. David Icke rides a bike. That was the weirdest thing they could come up with at the time for David Icke. Times have changed. He was just a TV sports presenter back then.
There's a lot more you could say about him
now. Let's put him on a bike. That'll be funny. That'll be weird.
So the ideal is to actually make it, rather than just find a thing that they rhyme with and say it actually has to be biographically true in some way.
And make it clever.
Yeah.
It needs to be clever.
So I wrote a couple. Do you want to hear some?
Oh, brilliant.
A couple that I did back in the day. So these are, the first one particularly isn't exactly like up to the minute. But it was at the time. Kim Kardashian. Do you remember she? This isn't part of the. This isn't the poem, by the way. Do you remember she had loads of jewels stolen?
Right. Yeah.
Vaguely.
Yeah.
Robbed. It was pretty dark stuff. But this one goes: Kim Kardashian had jewels and liked flashing them. Was robbed. How unfortunate. Now insurance premiums are extortionate.
Okay.
And I also did one weirdly about Jon Snow, but not Jon Snow, the other Jon Snow, because I think because I'd passed the pub that day called Jon Snow. Jon Snow banished cholera from Soho, identified the disease's hub. Now his name is on a pub. So there's a couple of little examples from me, but I want you to have a go as well, Tom. They're good fun to write.
John Ketley. Yeah, okay. Yeah, John.
Have a sit down and have a good little think. And I think that'll just get our juices going for our poetry night.
Right, brilliant. Yeah, cool.
Maybe that's it. We just do a couple of Clerihews and then walk off.
Yeah.
People would be delighted.
Right, well, I'll have a crack at that then.
Yeah.
In the intervening time before next episode.
Okay.
And I will
come back to us next episode.
I will astound you.
Yes.
With my Clerihews.
That's what I wanted. So, Tom.
John.
What have we got this week?
This week, we are talking to Paul Armfield, who is a singer-songwriter. And as we will discuss in the interview, I heard him. He wasn't in my car, he was on the radio. I heard him in the car, listening to the radio. And his new song, just rang so many different little bells for me. And I thought, we've got to speak to him. It's about books and everything. And he sounds like a nice chap. And it turns out, John... He is a nice chap, I would say, from us speaking to him. He seemed like a really nice guy.
He was excellent.
Yeah, so we have a good chat with him about music and lyric writing and touring and books and all sorts, really, because he also runs a bookshop. It's like, ding, ding, hello, we have a winner.
Yeah. Ticks all the boxes.
Yeah.
Well, let's have a listen then.
Paul, thank you very much for joining us on the Failing Writers podcast.
It's a pleasure to be here.
It was a bit of happenstance, as I said in my email to you. So I was driving down the motorway listening to Guy Garvey on Six Music, And for quite a while, I've been looking for a guest that could talk to us about lyric writing and whether writing for songs was just poetry with music and what have you. And I've been racking my brains and I'd sent out a few emails here and there. And then your song came on. And it was like the most perfect. It was like an epiphany. And yeah, I probably nearly drove into the back of a truck. It was like, oh my God, oh, this is not. Oh my God, it's about books. Oh my God, yeah. It was just like, oh, it's this, it's that. It's perfect.
Yeah, great.
So I hastily sent, when I reached my destination, very hastily sent you a rather excited email begging you to come on. And so, yes, thank you for doing so.
An absolute pleasure. I mean, it's been an interesting project, writing songs about books. You know, it's my two worlds colliding. As you know, I run a bookstore in the daytime, and I've been a bookseller for for 30 years, you know, so...
What kind of bookseller are you, Paul?
What do you mean attitude-wise? Is he, like, really aggressive? Is he really in the face of the customers? You're not buying this one! Yeah,
is it, like, second-hand? Or is it, like, Waterstones?
I started off working, like I say, over 30 years ago now. I started off working for Ottakers. I don't know if you remember Ottakers, who were just... I mean, it was the dream company to be working for. I think the Financial Times ran a piece that said Ottakers this isn't a bookshop. This is a cult because everyone loved it. You know, everyone who worked there absolutely loved it. The people who worked their way up to head office, you know, they were all booksellers. And then we got brought up by HMV, the Waterstones, and you know that was a difficult transition for many of us, and eventually, you know, I thought, well, my only way out of this, you know, is redundancy, and redundancy was offered, which was great. And then I ran an art centre for a while, and I did music for a while, just doing music. I hated that, and then lo and behold, during lockdown, this little independent bookshop sprang up in my own town, and offered me a job.
Oh, wow.
And I took it just one day a week. But absolutely loved it, and now I run the place, and it's I still only work ostensibly 3 days a week, but it's great. It's a perfect balance.
Right. Oh, so you kind of manage it now.
Yeah. And it's great, you know, we're award-winning. We've just won Bookshop of the Year for the Southeast, and then go to the Nibbies to see if we've won the national one. I won't be there. I'm on tour. But no, we've won various awards, actually, over the 5 years that we've been open. And it's lovely. I mean, it's a tiny shop.
What's it called?
Medina Bookshop, and it's 50 square meters. And just, you know, that's what sort of bookseller am I. We work one at a time in the shop. There's three of us, but we each work one at a time. And a lovely lot of customers, a very different mix of customers. It's a very itinerant community in Cowes. Lots of people passing through.
Yeah.
And a very mixed community that we've got, you know, from the very poor to the very wealthy. We sell mostly new books. We've got secondhand antiquarian maritime books,
all right,
which is a nice little addition, you know, just a small section.
Little sideline, yeah, nice.
And also secondhand local books as well. So because our biggest thing is, you know, 9 out of 10 of our bestsellers last year were books by local authors or with a local interest.
Right. Oh, wow. That's great, isn't it?
So it's really, it's really good. And it's because it's small, it allows us to have a really bespoke selection. You know, we haven't got... We like have a shelf of historical fiction, a shelf of prize winners, you know, a shelf of books in translation, and that's brilliant for shopping. You know, the people don't necessarily need that massive choice. It's just really nice to have this bespoke, and they always think we've got a better choice than the huge. We haven't, of course, but we've got a smaller choice, and I think that's a revelation for a lot of people.
And so where does the songwriting and music come into this then? How's that balance in your life? And has that always been a thing for you?
Yeah, I've always played music since the age of 12. I formed a punk band with some friends when I'd not long moved to the island. And
what was the name of the punk band, Paul?
Well, we had some brilliant names.
You never have one name, do you?
We had names before we had instruments, so that was the idea. You know, we were called Brain Explosion for a short while,
nice.
which was fantastic, I thought. And so, we all decided which instruments we wanted to play, and then went out and got them. And I thought it was the time of punk, and all the coolest people were the bass players, you know. So I went and got a bass and learned to play it. But I always loved music. You know, it was always the thing I really loved as long as I can remember. Really, my dad had sort of rather bizarre collection of rock and roll and all sorts of things. And so I've always the lyrics, I think, have always been a really important thing for me.
Yeah.
But I was always in bands, and it looked like when I was at school, you know, the band I was in, we were going to make it. And of course we didn't. We split up before we did. And I was a bit lost for a while, and went and lived in Eastern Europe for a few years. And then when I came back, I didn't know what I was going to do. But I got a job in a bookshop, and I started writing songs and released an album 21 years ago now. My first solo album, because I played bass with other bands and things, but this was my first solo album. And it got quite a lot of attention, especially in Europe. So I was using all my holidays to go touring. But again, it was one of those wonderful things. The MD of Oticas bought 1,000 copies of my album firm sale. And put them on the counters of the shops. So it was an amazing leap of faith there, and so it was a really lovely push. And the album was called, ironically, "Songs Without Words," but it had lots of words because that was this was the pun really. It was it was all about the words, and so I was always balancing, a young family as I had at the time, and touring Europe, running a bookshop.
So what sort of gigs were you doing then? Was it just kind of like little?
I did all sorts. No. Well, my first couple of tours were sort of quite big venues around Europe.
Oh, okay.
Then I did a few solo tours supporting Lamb Chop, the Go-Betweens, and various things like that. So so playing some fairly big venues. I mean, it's I'm just been riding the ripples ever since. So those ripples have got slightly smaller,
as they do. Yeah,
as they do. But I don't mind. I love playing little venues and cafes and bars and things. And I've got a nice little following over there. But the downside of that is that I've never really had enough time to get things going in the UK. Which has only recently changed in the last few years. And I've had an awful lot of support from the likes of Mark Radcliffe, who's been a real fan really, and played my music a lot, and a few things have happened. So I'm now with this album of songs about books. I'm off on tour around bookshops,
which is lovely,
in May and June, which is I think it's a really good, because there's plenty of singer-songwriters around there, and nobody wants to sort of fat elderly the singer-songwriter to add to the list. So it's just trying to find my niche in the world really, and this has sort of happened fairly much by accident, but
as the best things often do.
Yeah.
So to go back to the core of my question, the reason why we kind of asked you on, I guess, so after your thoroughly natural transition from punk rock to folk music, in terms of writing lyrics, and my kind of initial question, my thought for the episode of speaking to someone in the field of music, is lyric writing, is it just poetry and then you whack some music on it?
In essence, I mean, Jean Cocteau said that all art is poetry, and I get that. I understand that completely, because I think in essence the act of creation is literally is the same for whatever you're doing, really, ostensibly in essence. And poetry really is the essence, because with poetry you're not working with anything except the language that we use every day, and because we use words, they're blunt tools to work with. And so poetry really has to work the magic of trying with these very dull objects to try and recreate something vibrant and meaningful and fresh, and to sort of make strange the everyday. And so you see things in from a different angle, and that's really hard to do with words. I mean, and especially with poetry, because you've just got the page. Your words exist in literally 2 dimensions, and the context is the page. With songwriting, you've got those other dimensions. You've got the dimension of time, for one, that you can stretch out syllables, vowels, consonants. The placing of the words is another tool, if you like. The melody, the rhythm, all those things there, and also it's a performance. So you've got the expression. So all those things come together that help you to, I think, in capable hands, they help you to lift the language out of the ordinary and make it And so I think that, but for me, I mean, I think, I've written poetry and tried to put the poetry to music, but in every single instance, I've had to adapt and change and shove, and it's never fit.
So it's like the movie version of the book. It kind of has the same thing, but it just needs a bit of artistic
and
license.
It's because I think also the thing is that it has to sit well on the lips as well, and that sounds daft, but
it's so much about the sound, isn't it? It's about the music of the words.
Exactly. Yeah, well, it's the extra. It's the voice is also an instrument as well as delivering the words, isn't it? There's so many different little layers in there of what's going on.
And I don't think it's necessarily about the meaning either, because I think in a good song, sometimes the lyrics will just jump out. And they don't, you don't necessarily know what the song is about.
Yeah.
But there's just moments that jump out. And I think hopefully, that I try and do that in my songs to make it strange, or to make, to create smiles within the lyrics and and that's the joy I get. And for me, the only thing I can really compare it to is playing with Lego. It is it's like you've got this box of bits, and that you just take out a piece and then you stick another piece on, and then another bit. Oh, that then it suggests where it goes, and it's this playing. It is just playing. For me, that's how it feels. And then eventually you can come up with something, and it's So I think it's different.
It's interesting asking you that question, because obviously with the sort of the style of music and that kind of folky style, it's very much about storytelling and building a picture and what have you. I guess on the other side of things, there is music that is primarily about the music, and then some lyrics that are borderline nonsense are kind of slapped on afterwards, like you say, just to sound nice. So I guess there's not even one answer to that question, is there?
No, absolutely. There's no one way of writing a song, and there's nothing wrong with the Beatles. Why don't we do it in the road? That's the sole lyric. No one will be watching us. Why don't we do it in the road? It's fantastic, and that can exist, and that's the joy of it. Again, it's playfulness. You can do anything. There's no right or wrong. I mean, for me, I don't consider myself a folk musician. I'm not part of the folk tradition.
How do you describe your music?
Well, I try.
I've just described it as folky.
No, I know.
Twice now, and I feel bad for it now. You've said that.
No. Because
so
what else
should
can
I call
you do?
it?
That's all there is left.
That's what I'm asking you, Paul. Yeah. What is it? What are you doing?
It's a real pain, because now, for example, I'm releasing this album, and everything where I list the album, it says genre. What genre is it?
He wants a genre. I was going to say, he wants a genre. It's like,
if you're lucky, there'll be singer-songwriter there. And I also don't feel too comfortable with that. I mean, I know that's what I am.
Yeah.
But I mean, I identify mostly with the chansonniers, the French chansonniers, Brel and Brassens, and Léo Ferré and the likes, because they were the ones who really wrote with sincerity. They took the art form seriously, and they used the form as some sort of poetic device. And so those are the ones. I mean, I would never call myself a chansonnier really, but I think it's that tradition that I think I fit in, and where I feel probably most comfortable.
Singer-songwriters, you're gonna have to do this cross-genre stroke, really, really, really gentle punk. That'll be all right, won't it? That'll cover it.
And it's really tricky, because things are so genre driven.
I say people want to know, don't they? They want to know when they're promoting it, or when they're selling tickets for it, or when they're recommending it, or when everyone wants to put it in a little box somewhere.
This album has some really up tempo songs, which are not what I've done before necessarily, and some unexpected cover versions, because that's the other thing as well.
Tell us a little bit about the album while we're talking about that, because and the name and the pun and the context and everything, all the stuff that when I had a little delve into after my little car drive, I was like, oh my god, this is perfect.
Well, the thing was, so I've when I've written songs in the past, some songs I've written bespoke, and where I've had to research. Like my last album, for example, was an album about trees that I was commissioned to write songs about trees, and so I went away and researched the trees, and then the songs came from that research. Other times I just sit down and just let what comes out come out, and I'll just sit there and I'll be blah blah blah, 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 and suddenly sounds will appear, rhymes will appear, words will appear, then sentences, phrases, and then the song grows from within. Like I say, like playing with Lego, and then it will suggest itself, and it's a really good way. What often I find is if I'm doing this, because I have to compartmentalize my life, so I tend to say, right, I've got 2 weeks to write some songs, and I sit down, and what I notice is if I do this, where I just let songs come to the surface, that themes emerge and things that I've been thinking of, it just they emerge, and it's almost like tapping into the subconscious. And when I sat down to write this album, the first 2 songs that just fell out were about books. And after 30 years,
you have to think it's inevitable at some point, don't you, that this was
absolutely
going to happen.
But I would never have thought it. And they're about our relationship with books, things I've been thinking about a lot lately, about how our relationship to books and the way we use books and the value we attach to them. And so I thought I'll go with this. So then I wrote 3 other songs consciously about books, or using book imagery or wordplay around books, and that was it. I think I'd pretty much exhausted it. So I was off to the studio in Stuttgart, where I've recorded the album before this.
Yeah,
and with some wonderful musicians, we had 4 days in the studio, and I thought if we work for these songs, that's great. And then if we've got time left, which as we did, I took along some other people's songs about books. And we put those in, and they literally bookmark the album, so we called it Between the Covers. So there's four other people's songs and 5 of my own.
How pleased were you when you came up with that title?
You must have been giddy when that title fell. Yeah.
Well,
covers like the songs, covers like the books. Oh my God!
It's like when you write the songs, you come up with a line that you think is really funny. I mean, one of the lines in one of the songs, "The Books Beside My Bed," which is obviously is self-explanatory, but there were 3 books came out a couple of years ago, all about the history of goth music. And I was an old goth as well. I went from punk into goth, massive Bauhaus fan.
Yeah.
There was John Robb, there was Lowell Tolhurst, and there was another book all about goth, the history of goth. And I thought it was funny. And I thought of doing a display in the shop that had reviews underneath, unread, which is from Bauhaus's Bela Lugosi's Dead, undead, undead, undead. So I thought it would be funny. And so I had this pun. And it was obviously just sitting around in my brain and came out in the song as well. So when you get moments like that, it's like, a little chuckle to yourself. And of course, no one else gets it. But
it's so satisfying.
Exactly. Yeah. And everything I do, to be honest, that's the motivation. I just try and, make myself happy.
Yeah.
My wife also chuckled a lot at that song, mainly because I am a book stacker. There's always at least 5 or 6 next to the bed.
But she just kept looking at you.
Yeah.
Nod at John. That line. Nod at John.
But also the other one that made her chuckle was the lyric, the same few lines night after night.
Yes.
Reading the same few lines night after night.
Yep.
As well, sometimes be so tired when we go to bed.
Absolutely.
Literally just, it's a great line, that. It's brilliant.
And that is what happens. The book just then falls to the side of the bed to be picked up the next night. Funny enough, we just had a new bed delivered, and I had to clear out all the books beside my bed. There was about 30. Which was
that's quite impressive.
Which is ridiculous.
When life imitates art.
Yeah.
That's a stack that might kill you if it falls.
Yeah, that's probably that's a good barometer, isn't it, of when you need to be clearing them out, when it becomes a health and safety issue.
But it is something that so many people relate to. It's the Japanese word sundoku, isn't it? Which is the buy more books than you'll ever read. And it is, and I think it makes with music. It's the same with records as well. I do wonder why we do buy so many books when we've got libraries.
That's a really good point.
I hope that's not your opening line to customers coming into the shop.
No,
Paul.
I mean, I have to say, this
what are you doing in here? Get yourself a library card. Go on, shoo.
It is wonderful to be surrounded by books, though. What's that about?
What is it about? And what do we mean? Is it what we think it gives us? What the associations that it has? Do we think there's? I think. On a good day, I think that people pay for records when they can get them for free. They pay for books when they get them for free because they are giving the objects a value, a financial value that reflects the value to them as a person. On a bad day, I think we're just being idiots and just spending money for the sake of it and just being acquisitive. But I do understand it.
Yeah, there's something about all of that art. You feel like it's part of your personality in a way, don't you? Do you know what I mean? It's like, this is, if you were to strip down my personality, it's all here. It's all in these books here and these records here. I don't know. It feels important.
I think that's what we think. I have this theory that if you want to know what a person wants to be, then look at their bookshelf and their record collection.
Yeah.
If you want to know what a person,
not what they actually are.
If you want to know what a person actually is, look at their browsing history. Yeah, I think
that's good.
But
yeah, there's a song in there, isn't there, somewhere?
Absolutely. But I do find it fascinating, and I go to lots of when I'm performing my music. Sometimes I go to sort of nice, really nice little areas where there's a sort of a middle-aged community that are very much in touch with the nowness of now and very much tapped into the zeitgeist and are very green. They're recycling their clothes, they're upcycling, they're doing all this. Yet in every one of those communities, there's a bookshop and a record shop, and they are absolutely things that you don't need to buy. And so, in terms of that wastefulness, it does raise questions. But like I say, I think it is about the value that we bring to it.
Yeah,
when you don't have to buy something, when you don't have to own it, to then go and buy it. I think there's a sort of there's almost a quasi-religious experience there. There's some sort of faith that's being invoked, and there's some sort of, like I say, there's some worth being given to this item that somebody's. And I think that is to be applauded, and I understand it completely. And I buy records that sometimes don't get played. I buy books that I know I'll never read. It's what we do, and it's an unusual phenomenon.
I think in the modern world as well, it's a bit of because you can get everything online and you get all your music digitally, but there's something very human, isn't it, about anchoring yourself to a physical object, rather than everything just kind of floating around in cyberspace. That there's actually a thing that you have in your hands.
I think so. Yeah, I know, absolutely. It's totemic. It's symbolic. It's all those things, and it is. We do attach to these things, and they attach to us as well.
Paul, you're a proper creative polymath. Have you ever? You were saying you've written poetry.
Yeah.
That you've tried to fit to music and stuff. Have you had anything published?
No. I certainly and I've got nothing but admiration for anyone who can sit down and get a novel finished. I can't imagine that. I think I probably I got ADHD. But I can't imagine that level of concentration.
But poetry, obviously, you've written a bit of.
Only a bit
else?
of.
A little bit of short stories, or anything like that?
No, only a bit of poetry. And I think because, like I say, I have to compartmentalize my life because I am doing lots of things. And I wish I had time to sit down and write poetry. I wish I had time, to do lots of things, actually. I've got lots of projects on sitting on the back boiler, waiting to be picked up. And I just wish I could get to them, but I can't. So
yeah, same.
All through my life, I've had to say, okay, well, I've got, 2 weeks to write, a week to record, and it's a shame because then I spend like I am at the moment 3 months promoting.
Yeah.
And like for the last few days, I've been sat down just sending out press release after press release after press release, to try and promote the tour, to make sure there are people there, and so that the legwork is the major part of the job, unfortunately.
Yeah.
I wish it wasn't like that, but the alternative is, as I've done in the past, is to have a record label that will do these things for you. And at the end of the day, that you end up bottom of the food chain with that sort of scenario. Everyone else is getting paid. The person who's doing this job that I'm doing now of sending out press releases, they're getting paid. All the other people are getting paid. And if there's anything left at the end of it, it will trickle down to the artist, and that's the reality, really.
So what does your tour that's coming up look like then? In terms of, I assume you're organising the whole thing, and like,
Yeah, and I'm very proud, I have to say, because the actual routing is fantastic. I've got, I think most days I don't have to travel more than 2 hours, which is wonderful. But it's the first big tour I've done at the UK, so it goes up around the country, get as far up as Newcastle.
Yeah.
And then down and down back to London and or Norwich, and then right down to Penzance, to the edge of the world bookshop in Penzance.
Yeah.
And then that's in May, and then in Europe I go into Germany, Netherlands, Germany, and then Austria, and then back up through Germany as well.
Where do you stay, if that's not a weird question? Do you tend to get housed by people on the way?
Yeah, I mean that happens a lot. In Europe it happens all the time. Every venue will accommodate you. But in the UK, actually, I'm going in my camper van this time,
nice.
Which, sleeping in car parks and little lay-bys and things. But that's all right. I love it.
So if anyone's passing a van and can hear the refrains of a song about a book, they know what's going on.
I've just got the CDs back from the manufacturer, and of course, it's designed to look like a book. I've made the design based on the Olympia Press Traveller's Companions, which I collect. They were wonderful. A slice of publishing history. And so there's a booklet inside that is supposed to open out like a booklet. And I got them back last week, and they were stuck to the wrong side.
Oh, no.
So they don't open up like a book at all. It looks like I might be reassembling them all. So I think that's going to be a large part of the tour, is sat in my van, sticking booklets to CDs.
And that really is the glamour, isn't it, of the showbiz world there?
Yep.
I mean, that's what it's all about. At one point, that must be one day, when you were just starting that punk band in school, you'd be like, one day, I'll be rearranging.
Well, that's a very interesting thing, because it's how you do measure success. And I think for anyone who's writing or doing anything with the creative world, is how you measure success. Because if you're not careful, that horizon never gets any nearer. And it's good to have a measure and to constantly check and say, actually, am I successful? Well, I think I'm usually successful because I get to travel around and meet nice people and do the things I love. So I do honestly believe that I'm the pinnacle of success, and anything extra is great. But it's I see so many people always constantly striving. They never realize they're there. And it's that child ambition, that you have is, my child ambition was to be honest, was to arrive in a city and see my posters everywhere. Because I always used to, when you're on the coach and you go to London, see the posters everywhere, you think, oh God, that must be amazing. And I remember arriving in Vienna once, and then my posters were everywhere. I was like, oh, that's it.
I've done it.
I've done it.
Yeah, you don't need to be Ed Sheeran. That's it.
Absolutely that. Or, a best-selling novelist, the chances, the odds of being a best-selling novelist are so stacked, that it's good to sort of lower your expectations. People always think I exaggerate with this, but every single day I'm at the bookshop, I will have a new local author come to me and say, I've written a book.
Every day? Really?
Every day. Every single day. And
so there's a lot of authors, obviously, on the Isle of Wight.
Yeah. And they all want to get published. They all want to see their book. They all want that physical product in their hand. Yeah. And I, wherever possible, I almost try and sort of convince them, don't obsess with the physical product. Do it online first. Get instant feedback there. If you publish the physical book, you won't get that instant feedback. The books will go out there, and that'll be that's it. If you're lucky. And selling books is really hard. There's so many books that are published. And so there's horrible statistics like 50% of books sell less than 50 copies. Yeah. But as I always say to people is, that apparently, and this is another, I've got loads of these statistics that I could bandy about, that less than 2% of books that get started by people writing them get finished. So if you've finished a book, that's a huge achievement. But it's this constantly, I'm trying to, encourage writers, but trying to warn them against the way the industry is and the way, the reality of the disposable nature of books ultimately. But like I say, the important thing is the creating of that. Like I say, the satisfaction of actually finishing something and creating something is really, for me, is the everything. That's it. I get to play it to other people is
Yeah.
a bonus. But really, the joy of it is, like I say, it's playing with Lego. It's sitting down and just coming up with something from nothing.
It must be also very gratifying when you find your people.
Yeah.
Like, even if that's what we're talking about, novelists, if your readership is quite niche, and in your case, if your listenership is quite niche or whatever.
I'll say you had a writing podcast, John, that was brilliantly made, really entertaining, but still didn't find a large audience.
Niche.
Exactly, yeah.
But it is, it must be really nice to play in front of those people who've come out to see you, and they're into books, and they're into your kind of music, and that must be so nice.
But that is nice, but a nicer scenario is winning over an audience who have no idea.
Oh, that's interesting.
That's another challenge altogether, and that's a challenge I really enjoy, because actually sometimes sitting to an audience that know and know what to expect is in some ways harder. It's harder to be in the moment
because their expectations are higher. Yeah. So you're talking about playing at festivals and things like that, where people that haven't necessarily come to see you, but they're there.
Yeah.
And
also the other thing that's been really interesting is that where I've considered my work to be so about the lyrics, that most of my success has been in other countries, which has been non-English speaking countries, which has always been a bit baffling.
Mind you, they all speak really good English.
It definitely doesn't mean that it's better if your words were just nonsense, that you would actually do better. That's not what it means at all. Definitely not that.
But it's funny now, because I'm doing more gigs in the UK. It's really nice because the audiences there are getting the nuance, and they're getting the cultural references a lot more. That's nice. So it's almost like I'm starting again to some extent, playing to UK audiences, which is smashing.
Well, this tour could be it. This could be the big one. This could be the one that shoots you to the top of the pop charts.
Yeah, I doubt it somehow.
You never know.
I doubt it somehow. What I do, I do hope. I'm just very, very, very pleased to be combining these two worlds, of books and music, and in a way that I hope, I know it already. I know that it resonates with people from the experience I've had of performing these songs already. But and from what you say, about just hearing the song about the books beside my bed.
Yeah, well,
it's
you can count me in that number, Paul.
I think there are a few people
audience.
I think there are so many people who recognise that, and it gives creates a wry smile.
But that's nice. The way back into your back catalogue, isn't it? And finding out more and finding extra stuff and more stuff you like, and ending up on playlists.
Hopefully,
and stuff. Yeah, definitely. Although I must say, having gone through your back catalogue, when I sort of posed the question of is lyric writing like poetry, I didn't know how that would sit. With you released an album where basically you didn't really write any words, you just nicked Tennyson's poetry. So that kind of almost answers my question without asking it, doesn't it?
Well, that was an interesting project, because I thought, as a bookseller living on the Isle of Wight, where Tennyson resided for a large part of his life, I'd always struggled with the poetry and I never found a way in. And I thought it would be really interesting to just sit down and try and put a few to music. And I did, and I thought it was quite interesting as a project. And I made the sort of mistake of telling a friend of mine, a chap called Brian Hinton, who's an academic and a Tennyson specialist,
right?
Who said, I came back a few days later and said, "I've got us a gig, Paul. You're going to play the songs, and I'm going to talk about them." And not being unbeknownst to me, it was Tennyson's bicentenary. And it was going to be at Tennyson's house, and so so I had to sit down and come up with these songs, and put them to music. And the first performance, I just thought it was going to be a few, interested people gathered, a few local people. Front row, Andrew Motion, sat there, the poet laureate, and I honestly, I don't get scared for gigs, and my palms have never sweat in my life, and my palms were absolutely clammy, and it was terrifying. But the interesting thing with that was actually what I realised was most of the things that I ended up putting to music were songs. They were songs within the poems that Tennyson had written, or sometimes there was a song called the Poet's Song, which I put to music, because he obviously knew that it was a different medium, and these were a little shorter, more succinct, more structured.
I suppose the time signature as well, almost.
Yeah, that was suggested in the lyrics, and you know that also there was things like, so I did the Charge of the Light Brigade, and you know, it has this galloping rhythm, this half a league, half a league, half a league onwards. You know, is the galloping of the horses. It's you know, so that suggested itself, and then I ended doing that to a Baran, you know, an Irish Baran who did a digga 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 digga, you know, and it was really nice. And I got Tennyson. I used the Edison's recording of Tennyson to so he recited alongside me, which was really nice, because if you listen, unless you know the poem, if you listen to the recording, you wouldn't know what he was saying. But by echoing what he was saying in the lyrics, it was really nice. It came to
almost
life.
Like his ghost, Brilliant.
Yeah, and the other thing is recontextualizing. This is where music can recontextualize the words. That one of the things that everyone will, of its time, everybody knew this song, "Come into the Garden, Maud," which was a Tennyson poem, and it's this very light, you know, "Come into the garden, Maud, I'm dying to see you," sort of thing, and it's very light and airy, and it was a massive hit in its time. But actually, it's a really quite sinister poem about stalking. So I was able to recontextualize that, you know, and make it this darker, more man hiding in the bushes thing. So it's interesting that, like I say, you're creating a new context around these existing words.
The modern parallel of that reminds me of people using the Police's "Every Breath You Take" as their wedding song.
Yes.
Same sort of thing, isn't it?
Yeah.
Well, that did actually add a lot to my initial question there. I thought that was going to be, no, I just couldn't be bothered writing some words, so I just stole Tennyson's words. But actually, you put a bit more thought into it than that, didn't you?
Yeah, it was an interesting experience and another way of working.
Paul, you very kindly sent us a link to your latest album, and I've very much been enjoying it. But the covers that you've chosen, I thought were beautifully chosen covers.
Oh,
but then I thought, how many songs about books are there? Probably not like millions of them.
No,
but they're
really
great. They're great.
Yeah. And did any not make the list?
There's a few that didn't make the list, just because I thought there's a wonderful song by Nick Lowe called "I Read a Lot," which I just think is a beautiful, perfect song. But you know what? I couldn't add anything to it. My version would have only been
like his
less than that. Yeah. And similarly, I felt a bit like that with Elvis Costello's "Every Day I Write the Book," but it's such a big production, that song of his, that it was, you know, it was I felt it worked, stripping it down to its.
No, it was really nice. It was a lovely kind of, you sort of Bell and Sebastianified it in a really beautiful way. Yeah. It's really nice. The same with the Rodgers and Hart as well. The sign off, I thought was absolutely sublime. It really is lovely, that.
Thank you. I mean, it's such an interesting song, because I mean, it's very meta, if you like, because basically it's from the film Pal Joey, and Sinatra comes on and sings, "If they asked me, I could write a book," and basically say but you know, he could write a whole book about how wonderful this woman is, but then manages to convey everything in 2 verses. It's just brilliant, you know.
Or even in a line, to be fair.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, exactly that. Yeah.
But it's great. It's a real kind of emotional outpouring, your version. But it's like you say, it's very stripped back. You know what it reminded me of? Go on. It really reminded me of Vangelis's, you know, the love theme in Blade Runner.
Oh, right, okay.
It's got vibes of that going on, which I absolutely love as well. But yeah.
Take that one, Paul. Have some of that. Oh, yeah, Vangelis. I think I've heard of him. Yeah, I've heard of him. Has he done any good stuff? Yeah.
Well, I did the cover of a Demis Roussos song as well. I did a few years ago, because he was in Vangelis with, what were they called? I want to say Destiny's Child. They weren't called Destiny's Child. Aphrodite's Child. They were in a duo. But the other cover, of course, which I think really took it. Well, there's You Can't Judge a Book by the Cover, which is recorded and made famous by Bo Diddley. You absolutely, you know, which I always laugh at, because, you know, being a bookseller, you absolutely can tell a book by the cover. You know, you really, you know, even now there's a couple of wonderful publishers who are just putting, you know, plain covers or just words on the cover, you know, and which I love. But you know, you still know there's the what that says about the book.
Yes, by saying nothing, they're saying something.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
So, and then the other cover, which we hadn't planned at all, but we just had a bit of time left, and we were like, what else can we do? You know, we listened to loads of different obscure things about books, and then we came across this one by Husker Du, which I would have never have thought of doing. The wonderful books about UFOs, which is just hilarious.
I love that. That's my favourite. That's my favourite cover on. Yeah.
Really
because
good.
I had no knowledge. I don't have any knowledge of it. It doesn't exist in any. And yeah, just hearing it, and I really like that one.
It was
really
just fun. We had fun playing.
Yeah,
it, you know?
and I always like songs like that have a seemingly very simple story to them, and then you can kind of look further into it if you want.
Yeah,
but just that's kind of. I don't know how to describe it, like an action story. It's just kind of happening in front of you.
Yes,
sort of
yeah.
I like that as it just kind of opens up through the song.
Yeah.
And it's just, yeah.
No, I was very pleased with that.
Yeah,
So, yeah.
It's,
thanks.
really enjoyed that one. But yeah, brilliant album. So when's the album out?
It's out in May. I think the official dates are like the 16th of May, but I'll have them on sale.
It's been put back a little bit because you've got a lot of gluing and sticking to do with all the pamphlets that need relayed.
You know, so I'll be on the road and I'll have copies for sale. I'm just waiting for the vinyls to arrive, and you know, I've got everything crossed, hoping they arrive in time.
Brilliant. Well, we would encourage everyone to check out the album and go and see you on tour. And people now, they think, he sounds like a nice guy. We've had a nice chat with him. Yeah, but I probably can't be bothered. We'll play the books beside my bed. And I think that might tip the balance and change their mind that they will book those tickets and get the album.
Thank you. Yeah, like I say, I'll play mostly bookshops. It'll be lovely.
It would be such a cosy little tour, that, won't it? Surrounded by books. Perfect. Paul, thank you so much for joining us, and thank you for your time. It's been an absolute delight to talk to you. It really has.
It's been a pleasure. Thank you.
Real pleasure. Thanks very much.
Here stands the Tower of Babel, where once there was a bedside table. Each book a good intention, the bricks of self-invention. Oh, if I had only read the books beside my bed. Years of dust on every cover, now piled high one atop the other, stacked from the ceiling to the floor like strata on a cliff face, all just waiting to be read. The books beside my bed, the books beside my bed. In my bed each night I can't recall the lines I read the night before my eyes shut tight. The words grow wings and take their flight. The same few lines night after night escape my grasp, go crashing to the floor to join the books beside my bed. God knows who lent me, and that pile, bestsellers from last century, and beside the lamp a guide to moths, and John Rob's new history of goths, unread, the books beside my bed. Not reduce those towers with just so many waking hours. If I was to read until I'm dead and then continue reading, still I would have never read half of the books beside my bed. The books beside my bed. The books beside my bed. The books beside my bed.
So that was Paul Armfield, and that was his song, Books Beside My Bed. which is lovely. I love that song.
I love that song too. And he's just brought out Paperback, which I like even more, I think.
Do you?
Yeah, I love Paperback.
Controversial.
It's really good.
My 12-year-old daughter liked that song, Books Beside the Bed, because I think it spoke to her as well. She has a habit of like, oh, that book looks good. Start reading it, not really put it there. Yeah, so I think it probably chimes and speaks with a lot of people.
Yeah.
Be they voracious readers or want to be voracious readers or reading underachievers.
Yeah, Katie made me get rid of some of my pile next to my bed
Really?
the other day. It was just getting silly.
Right.
So yeah, same. But yeah, if you fancy actually seeing Paul Armfield, like in the actual flesh, he may well be at a venue near you. If you go to paularmfield.com or click on the link in the show notes, you'll find all his tour information. But he's kicking off May the 1st in the Isle of Wight, and then he's right across the UK and Europe.
He's all over the shop, isn't he?
All
over the shop.
So yeah, go say hello, show him some love, buy a copy of the album. As a lovely offering to Paul to say thank you for coming on the podcast, I thought maybe, as a fellow musician, I thought maybe, how can I, give him sort of an affectionate tribute? And I thought, I'll write him a ditty in the style of Paul Armfield. He'll bloody love that.
Yeah.
My name is Paul Armfield.
No, it isn't. I'm Paul Armfield.
I sing of many different things.
Is that what you think I sound like?
I wear my good luck charm beard.
What?
'Cause of all the joy it brings.
These lyrics don't even make any sense.
I've explored the concept of home.
Well, yeah, that's true.
Played in Holland, in Berlin, Bruges and Rome.
Never played in Bruges.
I've written songs that sound so mellow.
Thank you.
I've covered trees and books and Costello.
Done my latest album, Between the Covers, which is out in May.
Just give me a subject, I'll write anything.
Not anything.
Any subject, haunting, sweet or menacing.
God, you do know this is really terrible, don't you?
I've even sung along to Tennyson. Woodland creatures gather round me when I sing.
Okay, that's true. That's, yeah, all right.
So I think he was pretty pleased overall with that.
Yeah, I think you really captured him, didn't you?
I think so.
I think he appreciated that.
Yeah,
I think he really did.
yeah. What was funny was I sent him that, and then it took him quite a long time. He was probably working or something. It took him quite a long time to get back to me.
Did you have a nervous little gap?
Almost like worryingly long time. But he was very nice about it. Bless him.
Brilliant.
Yeah, it could have been quite hurt, couldn't it?
Well, I don't care what anyone else says, John. I thoroughly enjoyed that episode.
It was excellent.
It was.
So yeah, so if you enjoyed it, give us a little subscribe. Maybe I think we're still going on with our little, what are we calling it?
Probably not illegal.
Yeah, slightly grubby, morally suspect draw.
It's like a loyalty card, isn't it? That's all. It's just.
That's the better way of looking at it.
Yeah, it's just
much better way of looking at it. But if you post a nice little review, well, just a review, an honest review. If you post an honest review about the podcast on some kind of social media, obviously it'd be nice if you at us in there, because otherwise we might not see it. But we will do a little prize draw. And I think we probably should slightly extend it to Friday the 2nd of May, and we'll announce the winner that weekend on social media. So, yeah, you can win some beautiful exclusive merchandise, which isn't available to normal humans.
Yeah.
So, yes, we should probably end there, but do subscribe, because we do genuinely have insane episodes coming up. We've got chats with Adam Buxton. We've got the brilliant Libby Hawker, who's the writer of the plotting guide Take Off Your Pants. We've got the lovely Mer Lafferty from I Should Be Writing podcast, telling us all her deep, dark secrets. We've got agents and kids writers and poetry and all sorts of stuff. So hit that button, that subscribe button.
And goodness me, you wouldn't want to miss us doing our live poetry slam at some point, would you?
No, exactly.
Because that will be excellent.
Super, right, let's leave these people alone now, Tom.
Yeah, I've got some Chernobyls. No, what are they called? Churros?
No idea what you're about. What are you on about?
The poems.
Clerihews.
Clerihews, that's it.
Yes.
Knew it began with C. I'll go right to Clerihews.
So, yeah, listen in next time for Tom's amazing.
So you just pick anyone? You just pick someone that it fits in?
Yeah, just someone whose name is difficult to rhyme, ideally.
So then the first line is just their name. The second line rhymes with that.
And then 2 more lines that rhyme with each other.
Right, okay.
Bob's your uncle. Easy.
Yeah, I'll play with that.
All right. See you later.
Speak to you next time.
Bye.
Hello.
Hello?
Where's everybody gone?